Hello, everyone. This is Casino Royale with Cheese, and my name is Shane. This is my good buddy Doug.
Hello.
There's Doug.
That's me.
Yes, and we are here today to talk about some Star Trek. We just recorded a video. It was about 40 minutes long. Turns out it wasn't a video. We recorded an audio.
Check out our new podcast.
Right.
New feature.
Yeah. So I got some editing I got to put together for that. Needless to say, me and Doug have been friends for a long time. Probably one of the longest acquaintances that I still keep in tabs with. One out of maybe like 3 people.
Same.
Yeah. And that being said, one of my first things that first appealed to me about any sort of friendship with Doug was his zeal for Star Trek. All things Star Trek, really. Doug got me to finally watch Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise. And because I had only watched like TNG and Next Gen at that point, and of course the movies. So that's kind of a synopsis, a little bit of what we talked about before.
Previously.
Little bit, yeah. The recap last time on. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about Star Trek Discovery.
Right, because season 3 dropped.
Season 3
last
just
week.
went down.
Yeah. It's already into week 2, episode 2.
Now, one thing that we also talked about was that Doug is a huge. If it has Star Trek on it, he's down. It does not really.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a super high bar. He'll be interested in Star Trek. You know, I mean, not to say that he's like watching. You know, what was that stupid one where they're like in Deep Space Nine where they're Alan Moraine and all.
Oh God.
Yeah, like
I don't know. No.
Nobody likes that shit.
No.
Yeah.
No, I skip over that one.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of the first season of Deep Space Nine. I'm like, nope.
Real bad. Dude, there's a couple real good ones in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
Anything with Ducat. Ooh.
oh, I do like Gold.
He is my favorite. I'm gonna tell you that right now, and all of you, Gul Dukat, best Star Trek villain ever.
I will agree, with the exception. So, what was the episode where Cisco crashed in that shuttle, and he was stuck on the planet with Dukat? It was after they had captured him, and they had killed Zial already. And like Dukat was going crazy, and he had like these schizophrenic, like he was talking to himself and shit. Yeah, I feel like to me, if they had ended the Dukat story, that would have been like the perfect way to end it. As it is, Cisco versus the fire monster doesn't leave me.
The power race.
Yeah,
Right.
That's real,
Right.
not great. But I get it, because you know the end
They
of.
had to tie up the Kai Wynn
Right.
story too.
Yeah.
So
And the war really didn't end with a bang. They just kind of had the female changeling cornered, you know, and like had her over a barrel. Yeah.
nothing.
Okay, well,
I'm sick and old.
that's a
Nothing
wrap.
you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Well, you're going to die then, so the war's going to be over anyway. So,
They lay waste to Cardassia off camera though.
yeah, I noticed that destruction got overlooked. Even whenever they're like standing around with the blood wine or whatever, it's a pretty lame set. It's like mostly like just lighting and like a barrel and like them with cups and like a lot of
You
smoke.
can hear them taking down the set in background.
Right. That's it, guys. Hey, Voyager's gonna need this next week, dog. Yeah. So we are talking about Discovery, which is good because me and you have talked about every other Star Trek show.
Right.
To great end.
Right.
So this will be a good one. And for the most part, I think we mostly see eye to eye. This may be our first real. I wouldn't even once again say major deviation. It sounds like I'm about to shit all over Discovery.
No,
but it's
I'm
just
not going to be. I'm not going to be personally offended. Like,
of course.
oh, I didn't personally work on the production
Yeah.
at all. So
Like
I
whatever
mean, I
you
really
want.
don't have any stake in it.
Yeah. But no, I mean, just in contrast, though.
Right.
I will say that the first 2 episodes, I feel like, of Discovery do have quite a good cinematic quality to them.
Very, very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think that was the whole
A lot going on.
grab
Yeah.
your attention. It had the JJ light flares.
Yeah, lots of lens flare. I
Yep.
think that otherwise, the cinematic nature, is the only reason why they would start the story right there. So that would make sense to me though. That being said, all the visuals look awesome. I guess like CBS got some killer deal with Netflix, so like they paid for like every single episode of it.
Right.
CBS wasn't out of pocket at all, which was cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's
good for
something
them.
I did not know. That's something I did not know.
Mm-hmm. I noticed too a couple of things. So I had forgotten all about this because I'd kind of been keeping up whenever Star Trek Discovery, kind of the development stuff, just things that I saw online. I mentioned to you before that I wasn't crazy when I saw the Discovery design, that they went with like the Phase 2 thing.
Right.
It looked like it was just flat. Something like drove over it or whatever. That being said, I did notice that I had heard at the time that a couple of the showrunners, and they had like this executive consultant, and that was Nicholas Meyer. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, director Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, as far as like executive consultant goes, is that like, hey, Khan was he was this old when he died, right? Okay, bye. Click. You know, I don't know what that fucking means, but
Right.
whatever. I'll take it. And it also had Brian Fuller, and I guess he was a writer for Voyager back in the day.
Oh, really?
I couldn't tell you which episodes he wrote.
Right. Right.
Whatever. So there's a couple old faces at least popping up from old Star Trek to kind of pass the baton a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now I heard that the showrunner did change from Brian Fuller, so I don't know the end product, what his involvement with that was, but whatever.
I haven't read too much on the behind the scenes.
Sure.
Other than, like the Ready Room.
Yeah.
With everybody's favorite
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. Why are you saying it like that?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it just starts off with them doing a classic, Starfleet thing to do. Help this civilization that's not really involved or anything. They're gonna die, but we're gonna give them a little bit of water to get them through the dry season.
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually really like that, and I want to talk about that because when it comes to the Prime Directive, I feel that Star Trek, like that thing gets interpreted many different ways, and then like some shows treat it like the Prime Directive is like the fucking be all end all of everything we're doing, but then there's other ones where like if you watch the Drumhead from Next Generation, she brings up like, yo, you violated the Prime Directive on 3 separate occasions. I mean, he was never like court-martialed or anything for it. So I mean, there's a lot of context, I believe, when it comes to the Prime Directive, and a lot of that too. I feel like the Prime Directive first was created with the idea of, you remember the episode of the original series where that Starfleet officer like took over that society and emulated him after the Nazis. I think it's to try to prevent that sort of thing from happening, a la like Bajor being occupied by the Cardassians,
right?
That sort of thing, so that people aren't being exploited. That sort of thing, because at that point you're having a major impact on their society. Now, we do see later on in other Star Trek shows though, where so for example, in the Next Generation, there's that one pen pals where like Data's writing letters to that little girl. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, good job, Data. You were right to let that little girl fucking die,
Right.
Like, and then we see in Enterprise, we see where Phlox, there's that one episode where like there's that famine, or not a famine, but there's like that fucking, I guess, a pandemic that's taking place, and like all the people are dying, and he's like, well, we're not supposed to help you though. We have the Prime Directive, or well, they didn't even have the Prime Directive then.
No, the doctor, what was his big problem with it?
They just weren't supposed to be like sharing their medical technology or whatever.
Right.
With
the
them,
doctor
because they were pre-warp or what the fuck.
Well, yeah, and the doctor was like, no, it's natural selection. I don't know. If I can cure them, I can cure them,
But to me, so if you think about it this way, though, like the old Spider-Man thing, like with great power comes great responsibility too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so if these people can do something I would hope that they would do something. That's
Right.
what a good guy would do. Now, I believe that in a scenario like Discovery, that's the perfect way to approach that situation, though.
Exactly.
All they know, there's two people that wandered into town. They did something, but there's water here now.
Yes.
We have not impacted their society.
Yep.
We have not, like, they do not see us as a deity. They really don't know what happened, you know.
Right.
They just know that they're not going to die, you know. So that was cool. And then we get to see where, because they don't have contact with the Shinjo.
Right.
Well, so we meet Michael Burnham. She's the first officer. And that is, the captain is Philippa Giorgio. Yes. And they're the two that have conducted this water rescue operation that's going on the planet. So they do not have contact with the Shinjo, however.
Because the storm came in faster than Michael calculated.
Oh, I gotta say, Captain Giorgio's like shot down the well. I was looking at that, like, to not hit any of the walls of that fucking thing, like, she is a fucking dead eye, dude.
Right.
But yeah, so
The show Yo is great. I love her.
I've liked her ever since Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was cool.
I don't think I ever saw her in that one.
Anyway, so we find out they get a little bit of dialogue, and I actually really like this because they're going through this hypothetical scenario where, like, say you're stuck on this fucking planet for however long. What are you
would you
gonna
do?
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when Burnham's like, "Well, I'm gonna make friends with the fucking people and try to fucking blah, blah, blah," and
Learn as much as I can until,
until hope arrives and blah blah blah. And Georgia's like, "Well, I'm getting the fuck out of there." Yeah. So, but what's cool is you realize later that they've been making a little Starfleet insignia in the sand as
Yeah.
they've been walking, so the ship can see.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, in the middle of a sandstorm, it doesn't really make that much sense.
The storm hadn't hit him yet.
Okay, fair enough. But okay, logistically, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does make sense. Maybe it doesn't. But for me, when I first saw it, I was like, "That's pretty cool.
That's
I like
a
that.
hell of a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty dope." Now, I guess we are also ignoring, as did Enterprise, the whole like that wasn't the Starfleet insignia until later. But
Right.
hand wave, yeah. Next,
Right. Everybody knows it's Star Trek, so let's just go with that.
Right. Yeah. And there are continuity things like that. And I'm actually not one of the fucking super nerds. It's like, no, I want the fucking drywall sets with the fucking vacuum tubes and
Yeah.
no.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
because
whatever.
I mean, if you want to produce a Star Trek show, you got to make it,
people
watchable.
don't
Yeah.
want to watch that anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. And I guess that's just one of the things, like technology, that Star Trek didn't predict, is
Right,
how the
right.
way things look now,
Right.
So, I mean, it's all
And maybe
holograms.
Star Trek inspired some things, but
Right.
they didn't predict it.
Yeah.
That's what The Simpsons does.
Right. That is true. Creepily, might I add.
Creepily.
Uh,
Anyways, that's another show.
right. After the opening credits, we see where the Shinjo is investigating this communication relay
No, yeah.
that's been blasted. It stopped relaying communications, and they think that there's this object out there that they really don't know what it is, and so they're going to check it out. They think it might be responsible.
Right.
Could have been a meteorite. Can't take a shuttle. That's out. So, regardless of the radiation, Michael Burnham, the first officer, takes off in a little jet suit a la Spock, if
Right.
you will. Yeah.
A la Chris Pine.
A la Chris Pine, a la J.J. Abrams, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of his
It
thing.
was like, yeah, it was well, yeah. Did he do all three or just the two? He did just the two, right?
Well, so he
Into
didn't.
Darkness.
He didn't direct Beyond. So in
Oh,
his
so yeah.
two movies, yeah, he did it.
Yeah.
And then that was after they like fell through the atmosphere and all that shit.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. What I didn't understand about that, so check this out, right? They're falling through the Vulcan planet whenever it's being exploded. And so they're falling, right? They've got gravity that's kicking their ass. And then they beam them up, and then they transport them onto the transporter pad. They should have hit the fuck out of that thing with like a
Exactly.
shitload of force. They
Exactly.
should have been crushed. But
Right.
whatever. I mean, granted, they're only maybe that far away whenever they beamed up there, but still they're hitting that thing hard
Right.
as a motherfucker.
Well, you're assuming that motion, is carried over.
I would assume
in the
inertia would.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
might be wrong.
yeah.
don't
Because you can shoot a phaser
That's true. We see him talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. During transport.
But
That doesn't apply here, though,
then-
because I can't transport.
Lower Decks covers that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, that's cool.
It's great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He likes Lower Decks, by the
I
way.
love Lower Decks.
That's part of
I
what
think-
you haven't heard yet.
Yeah, oh, I love it. I think it's hilarious. But anyways, we're back to
Discovery.
right.
So
So
episode 1. So she goes out there to this thing. Turns out it's this monolithic-looking alien construction deal. We've already seen the Klingons once go on a little tirade about how they've got the purest of all the bloods and all
right,
that. Yeah.
right. That we all stay Klingon and
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just not intermingle too much here. So they feel as though the Federation wants to fuck with their sovereignty or whatever,
right.
basically.
Here comes their lie. Although I do like that the speech that he gives when the houses show up. But but we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Well, so that's interesting about that. And I find that, especially that speech in particular, that I've been reading a lot of stuff and doing a lot of research about lately, like cult leaders and things like that. And they do a lot of things like that and take like logic and turn it and twist it like that, and fucking make it sound like, wow, this is really something noble that we're really doing here,
Right.
And I noticed that when I was watching this last night, that you get a little bit of that in there. So when the houses arrive. So what's happening, however, whenever Michael Burnham shows up, turns out there's a Klingon there. And he tries to kick her ass,
Right.
but fails.
Right.
Warrior race my ass, but
Right. Obviously he didn't do his 0G training.
he got beat by a girl.
by a tiny girl.
Yeah,
She's tiny.
weighs $110.
Right.
So, yeah. So turns out though, she was out in space too long. She gets radiation poisoning, and then we get some backstory about her and how she had a Vulcan upbringing.
Right,
Basically.
which
yeah.
I thought at first I thought, oh god, the interwebs are going to lose their minds over this. Spock can never sister, but I liked it. I liked the fact that there's more to Star Trek than just the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
There are things out there that didn't appear on screen.
Yeah.
And this is 10 years prior to, so who knows what Spock's been through between then and now.
Yeah. What I think is interesting, so if you'll recall, that's not the first time Spock's done that either, though.
Right.
Like, he had a whole other sibling that Kirk, his BFF,
Right.
for a 5-year mission, he never mentioned him one fucking
Not
time.
once.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't mention his parents till they showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's true.
Like, oh shit.
He didn't mention that his dad was the captain of a Romulan warship. either.
Right. and then it was the ambassador to Earth.
Right, exactly. I think that's mighty interesting.
Right. You have a doppelganger.
Oh yeah, and then he was a
Or Mark
Klingon too.
Leonard.
Yeah.
Or Mark Leonard just really was. Well, you couldn't really tell in that one.
No, you couldn't.
Because I was like, no, it's not. And then I went back and looked and I was like, well, yeah, maybe it is.
Maybe. Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you know that I guess James Doohan had a lot to do with the Klingon language?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
Man, he's an interesting dude. You know
he
that?
really was. And it's hard to me to believe, was he missing his thumb or his pinky?
It was I
Part.
just want to say it was like from here down. I want to think on like a ring finger.
Right.
You
That
can
he
see it in
lost-
Trouble with
Yeah,
Tribbles.
like he lost in World War II. Like he was a World War II hero.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Crazy dude. And like you never hear much about him or nothing. You know? You always hear about William Shatner and
Right.
Leonard Nimoy, but never him.
Yeah.
Um,
The two divas.
right.
Because
Oh yeah.
Nimoy was full of himself.
And
Shatner
Nimoy was
full of
like-
himself.
And he was like, "That wasn't me at all. That was all Shatner." You know,
Right.
that
And
sort
Shatner's
of thing.
like, I don't fucking remember anything I did on that. It was just a show.
I was doing so much coke. I don't remember anything.
Oh yeah, man, yeah.
So anyway, we find out that I think it's right here that Sarek, we find out she has a past with him. He's don't find out that she's adopted necessarily at this point. But she wakes up though, and she feels it necessary to warn everybody she saw a Klingon because they haven't seen him in 100 years.
Right.
Yeah. Which is cool because they actually talk about in the original series how there was this Klingon war 10 years ago. So
Right.
I guess you get to see it here.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, and they do that whole trope. Oh no, you're sick. You couldn't have seen Klingons. You couldn't have seen Klingons.
Right.
I'm
You
not
have
going to believe you.
radiation poisoning. Yeah. And she did, in all fairness, look pretty rough after that
Right.
whole ordeal. Yeah.
Right.
But finally, Philip and Giorgio takes her word for it. And what do they do after that? Is that when they send the beacon? I think it's when they send the light beacon, isn't it? Oh, we
Right.
see the Klingons bury their dead. So here's okay. I almost wonder why they use Klingons in this show because the Klingons do not seem all that similar to what we've seen before.
Right.
They're pretty different, which isn't necessarily bad, but we have seen like information that directly contradicts. Like typically Klingons don't care about somebody that passed away. They consider like that to be, I think they even say an empty vessel,
Right.
you know. And so I mean there's little stuff. Now, granted, this was what's his face, so he was kind of doing like his own thing. You could make that argument too with the whole like, you know, I guess.
And you
Death
could
Bard
have
ship, you know?
you know, you could have Jesuit Klingons, or because they did, because you had, you know, the monks that went to the monastery, so you could have different
Yeah.
sects of Klingons.
Sex of Klingon.
Yeah.
I guess you could, but
But what I'm saying is, like, you know,
Right.
some are just like the worshippers of Kalis, and
Right,
others are just
right.
like, you know, we just drink blood wine on Sundays.
Payless. Right. Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Got all those.
Yeah, I
So,
don't really
it's a
worry about
different thing.
Stovall till I'm in my
Whatever.
80s.
Right. I will say it's almost kind of amusing because it's almost like the actors had a really, really hard time like speaking with all the crap they put in their mouths. They were looking rough, but yeah, we get to see them. They're taking their dead bodies and they're racking them outside the ship in a little sarcophagus
Right.
sort of thing.
Right, but they would, and you know, yeah, it was his family's ship that he got running again, and that's my thing. It was like, I mean, the ship was crashed. Did all those coffins just, you know, stay on there? Can you know, or you know, are they just once they're there, are they glued on, or you know? 'Cause
I don't know.
You assume it's some sort of, you know, magnetic thing.
They
but-
kind of hand wave that actually whenever
Right.
they show what happens to it because they show it all from like first person, so you really can't see what's going on with it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember the first time I watched that on CBS on TV and was like, "What the fuck is that? What are we doing here?" But whatever.
But of course, you know, and
Doesn't really matter that much.
really, and honestly, times change. You
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
Production quality changes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. As far as production goes, I mean, Star Trek TV shows. I mean, literally, quality is one thing, but production-wise, this is great. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really top notch.
Right, and they're trying to, you know, they're doing a whole new thing. They're trying to launch it for a whole new generation. So,
Sure.
you know, they're going to revamp the Klingons. You know, they're going to,
And it ain't the first time the Klingons been revamped, if we're being fair.
right.
Yeah.
I
'Cause-
would have actually loved to have seen the Klingons in the JJ verse
Yeah, we didn't get to see much
on the
of
Kelvin
them.
timeline.
Mhm.
You were actually supposed to see him in Into Darkness, because that's
You
what,
do see him in Into Darkness because they go to Kronos because that's where old
Oh,
fart
no.
mouth ran off to.
um,
You're supposed to see him in '09 because
yeah,
they
in the first one.
Yeah,
Right.
Because they're gonna go to that Rurapente, the prison planet,
Right.
fucking asteroid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray for that too.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's around this time they kind of just do a little bit of running around and stuff. Eventually, though, Philip Giorgio takes Michael Burnham seriously and decides that they do want to be more reactive in regard to the Klingons, and I believe they lock their weapons on them, and that's whenever they launch that beacon out. And what it's supposed to do is launch like all 24 houses on the Klingon homeworld, basically, because they're all ununified, disunified, whatever the fucking word is. I don't know. Anyway,
They're not unified.
right, they are not unified, and so this is the big move to unify everybody. basically, is
Right.
to get this little skirmish started.
Right.
Yeah.
And they took a little bit of Star Wars logic to that beacon
I thought so too.
because the
Why is there a
beacon,
light?
yeah, the beacon goes off.
It could just be transmitted, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm sure you could say, oh well, it was also in subspace too.
Oh,
But
wow.
then, if you're going to transport it in subspace, why have the light?
I mean,
Right.
subspace is faster than light. Or else
I
it'd
know.
take fucking 8 minutes to talk to somebody, you know, if
Oh,
you're from the Earth
let's
to the
talk about
sun.
generations on that one.
Oh, yeah, no shit.
But-
Gosh. Dude, that fucking torpedo thing didn't look like it had a warp drive to me.
No.
Just saying.
Also,
And bam.
and they would have had to do this if it was similar orbit to Earth. They would have done this for 8 minutes, even if it, because it takes light that.
Yeah.
But no, it was like bam,
That's
and then
if there's a warp drive on it.
right.
If we're just launching it to space, it could take months, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other entire
That's a whole other
tangent.
thing. I guess it makes
We'll
for
probably
great-
talk about that. soon.
That's great. Makes great story. Yeah, I get that. Great special
Fine.
effects.
It's fine.
Right.
I remember when I saw it in the theater, it was awesome. But
And
whatever.
What do you think of Michael's? So Charles Sarek. What did the Vulcans do? It may not work for you.
May
What
not
did
work.
they do?
Punch him in the nose.
Yep, punch him in the nose.
Yeah. It seems so. I guess it would be logical of the Vulcans because they're typically peaceful. But I mean, if somebody like keeps kicking you in the balls, you don't just stand there with your balls out, you know?
Right.
Like, you fucking do something about it.
Right.
So I guess, it's whatever. I could see
Federation
them
standing there, balls dangling.
Right, exactly. And that's what she's saying. Why don't you zip up them balls? You know?
Zip them up.
Yeah, exactly. Put away those balls. Unfortunately, nobody heeds her advice.
No.
She, it's around that time, I think, that we find out. And we actually, so this is kind of weird. It's really strange in this show because they are really trying to sell you on Michael Burnham, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and like, I find it really jarring that Sarek is so warm to her, but man, he could not give a fuck about his son.
Which is not unheard of in
I guess it's
family
true.
dynamics,
I guess that's true.
Some parents have a child that they just dote over, and other parents, and then they have a child that, But that's codependency right there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Vulcans are logical, but doesn't mean they're not codependent.
That's true.
You know?
And I guess there could also be an argument made there for, like, so, because Michael Burnham, when we see her, she's super logic, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have as much of a struggle with her emotion as what one would perceive Spock as having.
Right.
So maybe Sarek feels a certain kinship with her for that reason. Maybe. I don't fucking know.
Right. Or he sees, Amanda, a human in her, which he finds endearing.
Yeah. That makes
But-
sense. I don't know. Maybe. But it is pretty fucking weird, though.
Right. But now an argument can be made that because Spock and Sarek had that falling out, Sarek was mad because he pulled all the strings to get Spock in there, and then Spock said, screw it.
Yeah.
And
fuck
that's
this
why
shit.
Sarek got mad. He's like, I already screwed up with Michael,
Yeah.
and then you're doing this.
Mhm.
So,
Pretty whack.
yeah.
Yeah.
Illogical, but,
Mhm. Well, and that's every parent, too, right
it's
there.
that Ben Dye syndrome, hitting him in the face.
Yeah.
Hit him a little bit early.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I mean, I guess that's every parent because you just learn, from how you fucked the first one up. Well, I
Right.
ain't going to do that again.
Right.
So,
Right.
however, she gets the advice. Sarek said, you have to take care of these guys before it escalates or else it will escalate. And then
Right.
it'll be, once that cat's out of the bag, there ain't shit you can do about it.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's about that time the beacon lets off. She goes to tell Philip and Giorgio, yo, we got to do something about this right now. And
Right.
Giorgio's like,
Shoot them in the neck.
mm-hmm,
of that shit.
cut the neck. Yep. And Giorgio's like, we don't do that. We're Starfleet. got a point.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
Right.
We don't just start shooting at people for no reason.
Right?
Yeah,
I remember that in 20 minutes when the Shenzhou was adrift.
Yeah, you got a knife right through the gut.
Right.
Yeah. Anywho, so they go out to the bridge because the light dies or whatever, and then all of a sudden, fucking Klingons out the ass.
Right.
Just, oh,
Pew,
gosh.
pew, 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 pew.
Every corner of the galaxy, here's fucking Klingons.
Right.
So, yeah, they're balls deep in them now. They got a serious situation going on. So, that's where the Vulcan Hello, which is what the Sarek's plan was,
Right.
ends. We pick back up with the Battle of the Binary Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And basically, there's a lot of action. There was a little, what am I trying to say? Like an insurrection that What's-Her-Face had there, Michael Burnham.
A mutiny.
She mutineered.
Because
basically,
that's exactly what she did.
Right.
She
wanted to shoot the ship regardless of whatever Philip and Giorgio
Right.
said. Yeah, and so
she did it to save them.
Right. I'm trying to save you all.
Yes.
Yeah. It was actually, she wasn't bad in that scene. So, she goes down to the brig, and shit starts popping off pretty quick.
Right.
Fortunately, insanely, for the first time ever in any of this shit, there's Starfleet ships that are nearby that we
Right.
can...
That show the
Oh,
fuck
we're
up.
always the only ship in the quadrant.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. It's Earth. We're the only ship at Earth. Are you
Right.
kidding me? We're the only ship in range at Earth. Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
The head of the home of the Federation.
Right.
Brilliant. So these ships start showing up. So it looks like, hey, we got somebody that's got our back. Klingons are like, fuck that. We're gonna kick their ass anyway. Of course, shit starts popping off. Michael Burnham. Here's what I'm saying. The writers really want you to like her. She outsmarts the computer.
Exactly. She pulls a Kirk. Episode 1. Bam.
Except that was the 60s. So, but yeah. So she, like, where she's being held in the brig gets decimated. And so she outsmarts the computer and makes her way back to the bridge, whatever. Why does...
After communicating with Sarek,
Right.
Oliver, after you find out that he left part of his Katra in her
Right.
to save her life.
Now, this is getting a little TOS Vulcan Swiss Army knifey territory here for me.
Well,
Oh, boy.
well, Enterprise touched on the Vulcan extremists.
Yes, they did.
And evidently they're still around when, Michael is the child. So that'd be like 50 years or 60 years after, Archer had to deal with them.
Sure. Somewhere in that time frame. so-
Right. So
Yeah.
those extremists are still around. So there's a little bit of that there.
Yeah. I could see that potentially. I mean, more so, like, now these Vulcans have, like, special abilities that we're just pulling out of our asses. We can communicate with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Galaxies apart,
Galaxies apart.
Just fucking...
But it's very
Thousands of
stressful
light
for us.
years.
It's very stressful for
Yeah.
us.
Oh,
Yeah,
I get so
it's-
tired,
Yeah, I'm
I have to go
tired.
eat a big dinner after this.
Right. I might even have some guac.
Right?
Gotch.
Yeah. So, yeah, it
True.
gets a little silly, but that's fine. It's fine.
Right,
That's
it's Star
what
Trek, yeah.
they've always been making new superpowers for Vulcans. They're like space elves. It's
Right.
fucking ridiculous. It's fine. So then what?
Yeah, the real
happened?
space elf comes with Picard.
Yeah, no shit.
Evan Evangora. Yeah.
So anyway, after she does make her way back to the bridge, that's whenever her and Philippa Giorgio conceive a plan. Basically, the Starfleet fleet gets fucking ass beat.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Beat.
nasty. And so what they wind up doing is these Klingons, turns out, collecting your dead, not a smart idea.
Right? Maybe that's why they stopped doing it.
Mm-hmm. That could very... Hey, now you might be onto something,
There you
buddy.
go.
Now
A little
you might.
foreshadowing
They're
there.
building some continuity
There
before
you
your
go.
very eyes.
Now we just scream real loud.
Of course,
We'll just
yeah.
leave them there and scream real loud.
Right.
We don't want a warhead. Don't want a warhead beamed into our, pulled into our stuff.
No. this is something I noticed that Red Letter Media pointed out. It's a YouTube channel, but I noticed it too, and that's they did something similar with the Borg cube on Voyager, where remember when they like beam that fucking they just like beam a photon torpedo on board the Borg cube or whatever. It was like Harry's idea.
Oh,
and like
yeah.
set it to detonate, and the Borg like, what's this? Bam!
Right.
It was pretty fucking funny.
Like
But,
they
yeah.
wouldn't have instantly known what it was and just beamed it
negative.
off the ship.
Yeah,
right?
we've never seen a
Shit,
Federation.
there's a photon torpedo. Get it out of here.
That's what a Starfleet photon looks like. Never seen one. I didn't have 50,000 fired at me.
Right.
However, so they beam the little photon warhead on the little Klingon body that's being tractor beamed up into
Right.
the big old ship, and of course it detonates, cutting the neck.
Right.
Yep. Why do they only send 2 people over there? Is it just a Star Trek thing?
I think it was more of a plot. There was more of a plot device.
It always irritates me. It's so easy to write around. Oh wow, we're so fucked up. There's only enough power for 2 transports.
Right.
But then you have to like, oh well, now we fixed it. By the time they got done doing whatever the fuck it was they were doing, yeah.
Emergency transport, 27 people.
That's supposed to be broke. So anyway, they beam over to their ship to go. They want to get the commander. What's his name?
Oh, what was the
Klingon.
Yeah, what was his?
Yeah, he's trying to rally the troops.
Right.
Takuvma.
Takuvma.
Mm-hmm. And you've seen this 3 times. Golly.
Right. Right. I have. And I had to close my eyes and read the screen.
I actually,
Takuvma.
right? I'm pretty sure I've actually seen both of these, at least 3 times now. So, so yeah, they want to capture him alive though. If he dies, he's a martyr.
Right.
If he's alive, he looks like a pussy.
Right.
So yeah, they wind up going aboard. Philip Giorgio
Not
gets
so
it.
much, yep.
Yep. And then we see Michael Burnham in one swift motion switch over to kill on the phaser and then blow that motherfucker away.
Right.
Yeah, and that was the end of that.
She was like, "We gotta save him, no matter what. We gotta
Right.
take him, no matter what." Oh, no, you're dead now.
Yeah. If anything, I know the writers want you to really like her, but they do make Michael Burnham look like a pretty big fuck up in the first 2 episodes, I gotta say.
Right.
Yeah. Some pretty questionable decisions, leaving potential for growth.
Right.
So whatever. If they do that, is another story, but the potential is there. So, that being said,
Maybe she was. It was like a cocky thing. Like she'd never run into, anything as dire straits as this.
yeah, I think it could be an arrogance thing. That I mean, it's always you never really know how you're going to react.
Right.
in a situation.
And Vulcans
that's-
usually are described as arrogant. And she does seem pretty arrogant in that first couple of episodes.
Yeah. Well, and so at the same time, though, I mean, logically speaking, if you see yourself in a situation that looks pretty fucking dire, I mean, and you have a way to potentially get out of it, I could see, like, well, yeah, I might be in a lot of trouble, but at least I won't be dead, So, I mean, I guess there's that, but shooting that dude, like, straight up was a
Right.
pretty bad move.
Without even
Pretty dumb.
flinching.
Yeah.
Just mad.
Pretty dumb.
Right.
I mean, yeah, she still would have gotten court-martialed, but at least there would have been a war,
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, you done fucked up, but it would have been better.
Right. At least you could have been back with Giorgio and were like, well, I won't put this on your personal record this time.
Right.
Right. It would have been totally different, but no.
Or else Philippa Giorgio just died. So, technically, there's no paperwork filed.
Right.
Nobody saw that, right?
No, he saw that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? No, that doesn't sound familiar. That doesn't sound like me.
Right.
I was raised on Vulcan. So, yeah, like I just said, she gets court-martialed at the end of the episode. And that's pretty much where they leave her. She gets life in prison.
Yeah.
Because the Federation will not execute.
And we find out the first mutineer.
First
Starfleet's
mutineer.
Mutineer.
They were going to execute people for going to that fucking what was that planet with the big-headed motherfuckers in the cage?
Oh, Talos 4.
Talos, the
Talos,
Talosians.
yeah, the Talosians.
Yeah, I always thought their head throbbing was so weird looking, man.
Right.
Ugh, it's so nasty. It's so bizarre. But yeah, so overall, I mean, it definitely started with, if you compared this to like the encounter at Farpoint, get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
This is
Yeah,
a trillion times better than that.
Right.
At least I could sit through this.
But it's comparable with like Voyager's Endgame. Because I think Endgame,
I actually think I like this better
I
than Endgame.
honestly think that they could have pulled, you know how they kind of took Next Generation and did all good things, and then kind of just led into Generations the movie. I honestly think they could have done Voyager getting home as a feature film.
Like a jumping off.
Right, right. Season 7 ends in a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And they're like, go to the movies and watch.
Sure. Well, and it's kind of disappointing too. If you watch Voyager, you never actually see them get back to Earth. You get to see them like approach Earth.
Yeah.
So
because all you want to know is like what's going to happen. Are the Maquis going to be? Are they going to be?
All we've seen is Harry Kim talk about how much he misses everybody. For all he's done is piss and moan about seeing his parents.
Well, then there was that time he actually got to. Because
the non sequitur one where he's like in that alternate reality thing.
Right, and maybe that's when he's like, "Oh, I'm pretty glad."
That was fucking weird. That wasn't a very good episode either.
But right, and for an episode for a television show named Star Trek Discovery, forced 2 episodes, no Discovery.
Yeah, they didn't do much
WTF,
Discovery.
man, with Senjo. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Are we going to discover the Senjo?
Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of, if you want to do it in a serialized form where it's week after week, the story bleeds over from one week to the next, I don't hate that, but I would like to see some more exploring. Fortunately, we do get to see some other creatures and stuff pop up in season 1.
Right.
So it's not all war and fucking...
and you see members of the crew, that are different species.
Mm-hmm. If I had to compare this to anything in tone relation, I would compare it more to an average, like, Battlestar Galactica episode, probably.
No, Battlestar Galactica was a lot darker.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was...
Firefly.
Yeah, well, I mean, just as far as, like, the overall... I mean, there was definitely more, like, a sense of foreboding with Battle... Like, these guys are fucked,
Oh, I know. My God. It's
remember when they landed on New Caprica? And you're like...
That was the most depressing episode.
Man.
Like, I honestly think it caused me to be sad for, like, 6 months because I just felt so bad for them.
And you're in a show where there's no time travel or...
Right.
We just have to get out of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, how the hell are they going to do this?
Yeah, exactly. That was awesome. Yeah, nothing like that. It doesn't ever get that dark in Discovery.
I love Battlestar Galactica.
I need to rewatch it. It's fucking incredible.
I mean, I've watched it so many times that when I go back and watch it, I'm like, oh, I watched this.
Another show you tried to tell me about.
Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, and I was like...
That was 20 years ago, too. I mean, like,
whatever.
that was like the early, 2003, 2004.
It's so funny to think that for, like, early 2000s, I'm sitting back like, man, they just don't write them like that anymore.
Right.
Right? That's crazy. Crazy stuff. That was good, though. Edward James Olmos was badass.
He was.
Yeah.
I really think he was... All right. When they said they were doing a remake of Battlestar Galactica, I'm like, ugh, really? I mean, I liked it when I was a kid because I was 10.
Yeah.
And it was a fun show for a 10-year-old, but go back and watch the original, and, man, you're just like, oof, Dirk Benedict? No, thank you.
Yeah, no, that was pretty lame. And I didn't realize either, because I was dating a girl back in the day, and I told her how big into Star Trek I was. And she was like, man, if you want to watch a good show, she's like, you need to go watch the original Battlestar Galactica. And this is after the remake came out.
Right.
And honestly, it was her she's the reason why I watched the new one, is because I watched some of the old one, and I was like, I mean, there's something here, but really the
Right.
story just feels like untapped potential, like it's just way too fluffy and foolishness, and they got a monkey, like a chimpanzee in a robot suit. And
Right? What is that?
Yeah.
You got the kid.
Fucking kid running around. Yeah, like it gets pretty
Which you only
strange.
see him in one episode of the new one.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
shows up in the pilot.
Yep, and
That's
then
it.
he's shuffled off with all the
Bye,
other
Felicia.
refugees.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. You're done
And he
here.
ain't got no mechanical monkey dog.
Nope, he didn't make it through that whole little exodus. Did you watch the Caprica show?
I caught one or two episodes,
I heard
but
it
I
wasn't
was
great.
like, I wasn't really, I was like, oh, the birth of the Cylons is gonna be great,
Yeah.
But then it seemed to me because it was like just the generation before, and there was Cylon Wars, and you would think that the Cylons had been around for a while, is what you would think.
Sure.
But
Oh,
no,
this
yeah.
is making him pretty new.
Yeah,
At the beginning
Caprica,
of-
because Adama's father was Esai Morales.
Yeah.
Was Adama's father, so it was Apollo's grandfather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was just one generation removed.
I don't like that as much. I mean, they make it sound like at the beginning of Battlestar Galactica that this truce that they have has been going on for, didn't they say like 100 years? That they just haven't made contact with the Cylons. Or something like that. At like the
Yeah.
very beginning, because that guy would show up like every year to
And then-
show up at
yep.
the thing, and like nobody'd come, and he'd leave
Right.
until they finally do, and it's old Blondie there.
No,
But,
yeah, no Blondie. And what does she say? I'm sorry.
Or she's like, "Oh, you're what a human looks like," or something like
Right.
that. Yeah, that's a good ass show.
I
need to
did
rewatch
enjoy
that.
it. I did
Yeah.
enjoy it.
So
The Cylons were fascinating. They made them interesting.
yeah, I love the idea of they can look like humans, and so there's this whole like, and slowly over the course of the show, we're revealing who these people are, but
Right.
there ain't no telling. But so you picked this one to watch,
Right.
These two Discovery episodes. I'm going to pick the next one that we watch,
I think that I can live with that.
but it won't be a Discovery episode.
That's fine. That's fine. But we
sir.
were going to be all across track
Oh,
talk.
oh yeah, it's all over the place. I want to watch A Fistful of Datas. I believe.
Oh, good God! All right,
That was directed by Patrick Stewart.
Was it really?
Yeah,
I was
believe it or
not aware of that.
That's the only reason that I find that interesting, because it doesn't seem like something that like the Shakespearean
Right.
sort of dude would come up with.
And now that you said it out loud, it sounds like a freaking porno. A fistful of data.
Oh goodness! And now I'm thinking like
He is fully functional.
right. And I'm thinking of him like
it's-
shuffling cards. Like, man, you get that hand going pretty fast.
Right? Look at that.
It was honestly between that and Tuvix, so you might have got lucky.
Ugh.
So Tuvix is like an utter waste of time, except for the very end, I feel like. And it's so funny because the guy, nobody goes to his aid. at the end of
Nobody.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we all like the other two more than you, so
Right.
you're
I mean,
dead.
I guess you're kind of cool, but we definitely see if it was me, I'd be like, how about, is there any way that we can keep Tuvix, but just get Tuvok back? Like, you can keep the Neelix, that's fine. We
Right.
just need like a strand of your DNA, Tuvok.
Right. Let's just clone a Neelix and make him less annoying.
Yeah, I didn't hate Tuvix, so yeah, I'm good without him, without Neelix.
Right.
I actually think the name Nebok sounds better than Tuvix too,
Right.
but whatever.
E-box. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. So next time we'll watch Fistful of Datas.
Yeah.
We'll see what you say about that. It's pure cheese.
And this is going to be one I haven't watched in a long time.
Oh, really?
Because I pick and choose when it comes to Next Generation.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, you've seen them all.
yeah. I've seen them all.
This
first
is
round.
one that I've seen literally
You were still in
1,000
diapers.
times.
You were
though.
still in diapers, sir.
I know, but retroactively, I've seen this one 1,000 times.
I was
if I've
already
seen it
drinking and
once.
carousing, sir.
Oh, that was at the age of 4 for you.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway,
I'm
well,
born with a Miller midget in my mouth.
oh my goodness, that's a little nipple on it.
Yeah. Good beer.
All right,
Here's the good-
everybody.
Oh, that was Michelob.
Oh,
All right,
Michelob.
yeah, here's the good friends. Tonight is
oh.
kind of special.
That's the champagne of beers, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. All right, well, thank you all for listening to me and letting me talk today, Shane. Thank you.
Of course, buddy. I guess we'll see y'all when we talk about Fistful of Datas. I actually have a couple of Star Wars episodes that I have yet to edit, but I'll get those together at some point. So, anyway, this will probably be up before those. I'll see y'all on the flippity flop.
Sweet.